All right. I got to start this with an admission, boys. I love sports. I mean, obviously love sports. I spend time doing a podcast every week. I watch every single Warriors game at any opportunity, regardless of when they play or what day. I am on board. But here's the thing I got to say before we even start. I think I also hate sports as well. So glimpse into my day yesterday, dude. Amazing day. Amazing day. I get up, my kid's on spring break. So we start the day by playing and beating a video game together. Split fiction. Awesome. Afterwards, we go up and play a game of horse. Had the time of my life. Then
Did you
afterward,
win?
no, but I don't. I let her win everything. So that was even like another step in the right direction. Yeah. And then off we go. I took a trip to Moss Landing, a bike ride in Santa Cruz, dude. Dope ass day. The kind of day where I should fall asleep like a baby. You're like counting blessings. Like, oh, I'm so lucky to have all of this. Gentlemen, I didn't fall asleep until 2 fucking a.m. because a guy I've never met, Harrison Barnes, hit a three-pointer that I thought was fucking preposterous, and I was just furious. And I continue to be furious. Now, I think I hate sports. Let's jump in and discuss it. You are in. Where's Huddle with me, Bram? With me, per usual, my master of all things video and sound, Maxine.
How's it going?
Maxime. As you already know, I mean, he's on the call with us, but I couldn't be more fired up to announce that rejoining us after way too long. As you know, one of my favorite guests, if not my favorite, a noted sports author with bylines at The Ringer, The Herald, Real GM, and Fansided, the former Warriors beat writer for the Bay Area News Group, the current host of the Locked On Heat, Locked On NBA, and the Real GM podcast, and a guy who's watched more playoff Jimmy Butler as a Miami beat writer than any of us combined, Mr. Wes Goldberg. What's going on, Wes?
What's going on, guys?
I mean, I just told you I'm exhausted and I'm not doing super well, but I'm hanging in there.
Look, at least you're not a Mavericks fan.
Okay, yeah, I like this. I like where this is going.
It's all relative.
Yeah, and I like other people's misery. Like I am definitely one of those like misery loves company kind of deals. So this does make me feel a little bit better.
It's not to derail stuff right off the bat, but so my wife was asking me because we're watching the Luka Doncic return and he's crying and there's a tribute video and there's all the pomp and circumstance around it, the big broadcast, ESPN, the works, right? She's like, "What's the big deal? What is this?" Like, I don't. She's like, "Who?" And I'm explaining it to her, and I was like, "Yeah, nobody saw this coming. He didn't. He's like the next best player in the league." I was like, "This would be like if in 2005, after the Heat made their run to the Eastern Conference Finals with Shaq, and it was clear that this team could win a championship, that they just traded Dwayne Wade to the Celtics." And you're talking and that kind of got me thinking. I was like, it would be kind of fun to go through history and just do what the Luka trade would have been for every fan base. And when would it have been for Golden State? Like, at what point would you have to had were you like, okay, Steph's the guy. He's what we've been dreaming of for years. We've never had a player like this in the Bay Area. And then they traded him to the Lakers. Like, what trade deadline or summer would that have had been?
I mean,
It had been before any championships.
yeah, so I was going to say the easy thing, but it's cheating is 2015 when they crashed the mountain. I will point to, and I think it might have been 2014, but I'm not positive. But the Warriors competed hard against the San Antonio Spurs, and we
2014.
won. We should have left the first two games as 2-0,
Yep.
and we ultimately didn't get out of the series. But it was this sudden. I remember the fan base kind of secretly exchanging looks, like, "Wait a minute, dude, do we have our guy?" And if they had then announced like we traded him out for Nick Van Exel or some shit, something like, "Oh no, we are totally screwed again," I would not have taken it well, man.
It would have been at like the trade deadline of 2015. It would have to have been because they played well that year, right? So it would have been like, oh my God, like we're really putting it together. And then like, boom, he's gone.
I'm shocked it didn't happen. It's a difference between Cohan and like under Cohan, 100%. That's exactly what have happened. And if we're bathing in other people's misery, the other thing that we've got is both our coach and our GM, and we didn't fire them within 3 weeks. So which is a huge upside. And I'll tell you what, I was going to ask this later. Let me ask you boys now. What would have to happen? All right. I mean, the next segment, and you guys, this is really welcomed. The next segment is what the hell did we learn from that San Antonio loss? So the more we vamp before we've got to address that, like the better for me. Yeah. What would have to happen for you guys to be okay with your team to clean house? Coach gone, GM gone, only 3 weeks left in the regular season.
I mean, something off the court. It would literally have to be some sort of something off the court where you're just like, this guy literally can't hold a position within this organization anymore. We're talking, and we're talking about the Heat and the Warriors here. These are the two coaches left standing. That's it. Right? Like hope that Greg Popovich can come back. We have no idea. Michael Malone was the other guy that was in that club in terms of the 10 plus years. He's out. It's only Steve Kerr and Eric Spoelstra left standing. Steve Kerr is going to call his shot. We know that.
Yeah.
Eric Spoelstra just signed an 8-year contract extension last January, the highest paid coach in North American sports history. He ain't going nowhere.
Maxime, what would have to happen? Same thing? I mean, like some, weird, your coach and GM are eating pantsless in a restaurant somewhere, like some kind of off the court police situation, or like what would have to go down?
Yeah, I mean, or something, right, with like another member of the organization, like the owner's wife slept with the coach or something, right? Like the Ime Udoka kind of situation. Yeah. Because otherwise, that is the type of thing that ruins a franchise. And the only reason to ruin a franchise is if your personal life has been ruined first. And then you're like, okay, we'll blow it all up because I don't care about anything anymore.
So even if the players came unified, let's make it Denver. If Joker comes in and is like, look, we hate him, all of us. We took a poll, and everyone in the locker room hates him. I want him out. And that's, you're sitting in there, you're the owner, they give you that message. Would that be enough? Or do you tell him, look, yes, for sure, this offseason, he's gone. But we need to just kind of get through this one. Sack it up until the end of the year.
Unless your star player said, like, we think we can make a run. Like, this guy's getting in the way. That would have to be it. Wouldn't have to be. It couldn't be an emotional plea, right? It would have to be, here's X, Y, Z reason why this guy's in the way. We need this guy to step up right before the playoffs, and if you do this, I think we actually have a chance.
Yeah.
But Steph would never do that. Steph has the leverage to do it. Like if Steph wanted to get Steve Kerr fired, he could.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. He would never do it again, but if he wanted to, he could. Jokic could do that. LeBron can do that. There's certain players in the league, and I don't even know if LeBron could do it now.
Just about to ask that,
yeah.
Right.
But there are, when you're a star player like that, where you're worth basically more than the franchise itself, then you have that kind of leverage. But but it couldn't be just any, like nobody in Memphis had that power, right? That was even John Morant, as much of a star he is, he does not have that power. That was obviously a Kleiman decision, their GM over there, and that's a whole different thing.
I've got so damn it, Wes. I just like these podcasts so much, too. I know we have limited time. I know we have a ton of shit to talk about because I got some playoff Jimmy stuff for you, too. So I'm going to go quick, but it'd be crazy if I didn't ask this follow-up because I need to know. Have either of you boys ever been fired? Like from any job at any point on the way up? Was there ever a time that someone said, fuck you, we don't need you anymore?
So I was fired from my first quote unquote beat writing gig in college. I was the women's basketball reporter. It was my first beat writing job at UCF for the Central Florida Future. And I had been doing it for a couple of weeks. And the sports editor behind my back hired somebody else to also write a story off the game, like a post-game story. And that person submitted their post-game story faster than I submitted mine. I guess I was getting mine in too late, and that's why she decided to do that. And I submitted my story, and then my editor was like, no, don't worry about it. We don't need this anymore. I got a story from so-and-so. And I lost my mind. I was so upset. I got on the phone with her. I was like, who do you think you are that you could do this? And she was like, who do you think you are, dude? You're a freshman in college. Nobody knows who you are. And it ended up being the right call because I was really bad at being a beat writer. It ended up being the right call. And then we ended up being really good friends later on. But yeah, that was the first time I got fired. And the second time I sort of got fired. They were trying to fire me. I quit before they could fire me, but it was in sales. And it was right before I got the beat writer job at the Bay Area News Group.
I can give you a almost fired. And then I think I was fired. Like for all intents and purposes, I was fired, but they didn't call it that. Almost fired. Camp counselor way back. I'm like 17, 16. I had a beeper, which really dates me and shows what the hell. And they brought me in because they thought I was a drug dealer. Like they like literally saw this beeper and they're like, they used other words because you can't just accuse somebody of selling drugs while also watching children. But like, that is what they threw out. And I was able to assure them that no, although between us three, the reason I had that beeper is because I wanted to look like I was selling drugs. Like I wasn't, but it made me feel super important.
Were you getting any alerts on the beeper from
God.
anybody?
It's even more embarrassing, Wes. Only because I have to be transparent with you. Yes, but nobody needed to call me. Nobody at any point. Like I wasn't a doctor. Nobody needed to get in contact with me. And because I would like to show the beeper to other people, be like, hey, look at what I have, kind of thing. I would occasionally call it myself and put numbers in there so that when they were looking through it, it didn't look like nobody ever called. And so did people call? Yes, dude, but those people were me most of the time.
There are young Warriors fans who have no idea what you're talking about right now.
I'm happy that you do, dude. And now we're fast forwarding at least 20 years, something like that. And I work in a law firm before I get into law school. It was kind of an idea to like kick up the resume a little bit for when I'm applying to law school. And when I get in, now there's another like 4 or 5 months before I start school and I'm supposed to continue to work. But I don't want to, dude. Like the mission accomplished, I'm in and I don't want to work my first year. So I go and talk to the boss and tell them, hey, I wouldn't mind stopping in, I don't know, like 2 months from now. Like it was before I was going to keep working, but I gave them this deadline of like, how about I just work until then? And they're basically like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. How about you just don't come back next week? Like, I don't know if we need this to go any further. So, I mean, it started off as my idea, but it feels like maybe it was a firing. Like I'm not totally.
You fired yourself.
Yeah, it was kind of like that.
That's hilarious.
Maxime, any intentional let goes by you?
Well, what this makes me think of is in middle school, my very first gig, I waited tables at an old folks home, and which was a crazy job, right? Because you're basically serving people in the place that they live. And I accidentally one time knocked over like a water glass and it spilled onto this old lady's lap. And it's like, it's one thing if you do that in a restaurant, you should not do that when you're serving tables at a restaurant, but it's like a pretty egregious when you're just imagine just sitting at home, like you're having breakfast and all of a sudden your lap is wet because some asshole came into your house and knocked over a water glass. But anyways, that's not the point. The point is that I was tired at the end of the shift and I went back to the like bus, all of the dishes, and the bus guy was like this older dude full of tattoos, like lazy eye, like, kind of loosely keeping it together, but not really. And I was just like, man, like, I don't really like, I don't want to come in tomorrow. This sucks, And he looks at me, he's like, then don't. I was like, oh shit. Those kinds of decisions are why you're still like being the busboy at age 60 or whatever. Like, I think I'm going to come into work. So he might've scared me straight in that moment. That's about as close as I came to getting fired.
To almost following the lazy-eyed man's piece of advice. Nicely called. All right, I got to push us because we're going to lose fucking Wes, yeah? And maybe more importantly, you guys, I'm in a safe place, okay? I'm not as pissy. I can talk about it a little bit. Wes, this is normally we would do our glass half full. Look back, something you like, something you don't like. At a Warriors basketball, and I had a bunch of things, a bunch of like funny little things because the Warriors were winning and it was going to be super fun to talk about. But then they lost last night and Harrison Barnes ruined my sleep routine. And so now I am going to focus on in San Antonio. Wes, you don't have to. But Maxime, she start us off, man. What did you learn? What's the takeaway from the San Antonio loss?
Well, it's hitting me hard too. A lot of the narrative is if any team needs that extra few days of rest by not being in the play-in, it's an older team with Steph, Draymond, and Jimmy helming it. So now that it's looking more and more likely that we're going to be in the 7th spot, look, there's a chance we only have to play one game and we're done. That's the potential glass half full of this, but that's not great. I think overall what I learned, not to get too nitty gritty, it felt a little bit unserious, right? It felt like we built an early first half lead or an early first quarter lead, and then we just sort of blew it in the second quarter. And I think looking into it a little bit more specifically, granted, this is the end of the regular season. Maybe people are feeling flagged. Maybe Kuminga doesn't care all of that much because he doesn't understand the stakes like some of our older vets do. But it made me feel like Kuminga himself is an unserious player that isn't quite ready to take the step up in the playoffs. I mean, just, like, great, he can drive to the lane and sort of get an athletic basket the way nobody else on our team can. But at the same time, he's loose with the ball and he's not getting to the foul line as a result of it. These are the things that you need to do. You need to have a differently well-rounded game if you're going to be able to contribute in the minutes when Steph is on the bench. I just don't see him playing off of Jimmy all of that well. And Jimmy obviously can play with anybody because he stepped in and within 2 minutes of joining the squad was like reading the offensive plays the way that Steph wants to play them. So it's not a Jimmy problem. It feels like a Kuminga problem. And when we're talking about this team's ceiling and when we're saying, I could dream one day of maybe this being a championship caliber team, it's because Kuminga is our X factor. Everybody's been saying that over and over again. So that game last night felt like important stakes, felt like this isn't a chance for us to vault our way to even potentially having a home court advantage in the first round. Kuminga probably knew those stakes and didn't take it seriously or doesn't have the capacity to take that, like something like that, seriously.
Terrible loss. So Wes, let me put it this way. One of the things that I value when you join us on the show is that you kind of get to give us the 1,000-mile up view. And most of the time that can be critique. We're stuck in the weeds. We'll tell you X, Y, Z, and they'll be like, that's why we're a fucking contender. And then you can say, well, looking from way up here, you might be overvaluing some of these things. Tonight, we might be on the other side of that. That like looking really tightly at this one game and it's freaking me the fuck out. And maybe you'll have a 1,000-mile view on the other side. But here's my freak out on it, my overgeneralization. All right. Warriors used to be a juggernaut contender. Here's what I mean by that. I think 3 things go into a title run. I think it's obviously talent for sure, then effort, then luck, And there was a period of time when I say juggernaut, the Warriors' talent was so high that you needed far less of the other 2. They could just show up. They could have a shitburger quarter and it didn't matter. They could have a game where the shots weren't falling, but it'd be fine. You're talking about Durant. You're talking about, just the talent alone would bring it over. And here is where I have to admit I fucked up. Recently with Jimmy, and then even more recently on that 4-1 run, when we beat Memphis, when we beat Denver, when we beat the Lakers, I started to view us as a juggernaut contender again. I started to think we got enough talent, not like it was, but we got enough talent where like, it's okay. Even if we have these lapses, we'll be fine. What did I learn last night? Wrong. We're not. We might be a contender, but we're a sports movie contender. We're Rocky. We need all 3 of those things in equal fucking measure. Our talent needs to be there. Our effort needs to be there for 4 quarters, and they need luck. Shots need to fall. And so like, there's a chance, everything could line up, and off we'll go. But the way I viewed them entering last night and the way I viewed it when I was tossing and turning, between 1 and 2 were different. It shifted what I thought was necessary for them to go on a run. So what do you think, dude? What have you been seeing? Yeah. How does this hit you?
So the first thing I could appreciate the freak out from the fan level. It's also the last week of the regular season. You try not to overreact to these games. They tend to not. When the Warriors won the title, didn't they go into in 2022? Didn't they lose 4 straight games or something going into the playoffs? That's
great. I had not. When you say that, it triggers that does sound right, but I don't. I blocked it out of my mind.
They were stumbling going into the playoffs, and then it didn't matter. So I'll say that. But even after the Jimmy Butler trade, the thing that stands out to me about this Warriors team, they're better, but they still need somebody else to step up. Like Jimmy Butler isn't really that second scorer who can do enough to the point where if Steph doesn't have a monster game, you could still win the game.
Right.
He's close to it, but he's not quite there. The common denominator between the 2 best portions of the Warriors seasons, where they had that win streak earlier in the year, and then I guess you would argue this 4-1 stretch most recently, one of, if not both, of Buddy Hield and Brandon Podziemski were just going off. And once those guys aren't making shots, the Warriors look really mortal all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And I still question their ability to score with teams in the playoffs. I think there's defenses that can give them a lot of trouble. I think they can kind of also get in their own way. I think the turnovers could become a problem. This team is just so wildly inconsistent that it's the biggest thing. My biggest concern with the Warriors in a playoff setting is I literally think they could beat any team 4 times out of 7. I'm just worried that the other team can get to that 4-game mark first.
Yep.
And so if you start off a series where you have just 2 stinkers and Hield and Podziemski go 2 for 10 combined in game 1 and then 4 of 12 combined in game 2, that might be it. That could be the series because I just don't think that the Warriors have enough defense against the best teams in the league. I think they can get in their own way in terms of the turnovers. I just think they're really matchup dependent in the playoffs too. This team is just so inconsistent that if they can catch a hot streak at the right time, that could propel them all the way to the finals, no question about it. But if they don't get those timely buckets from those kind of role players, that could be a really big problem. And as we know, this is the Buddy Hield experience, right? He's been in the league for a long time. People have figured this out. This looks like it's going to be the Podziemski experience. And with the Jonathan Kuminga thing, it's not the shot making necessarily with him. It's to Maxime's point, it's the effort. It's like this coaching staff has to beg him once a week to rebound. And I think that waxing and waning effort is also part of Golden State's overall inconsistency.
It sounds like we agree. I'll reduce it to a sentence. I entered, and foolishly, I entered that game thinking they should win at least a couple playoff series. At least. I didn't want to say it out loud, but I should. Now it's retreated to could. They could, and maybe we'll get super hot, but that also means maybe they won't. To see what's up. Also, I don't mind mentioning what a terrible combination a ridiculously, justifiably, but ridiculously confident Podziemski and Chris Paul is. Because Pods came in there riding as high as possible. CP3 knew it and used so many of those little wily fucking CP3 things that drives me crazy to just keep putting Pods in bad scenarios. And
Are you back to hating him?
CP3? Yeah. Of course, dude. What are you talking about? Absolutely.
Well, I didn't know if just like a year in Golden State, was that enough to just sort of get rid of all of that stuff? But I guess that's interesting.
If you had asked me that before the second quarter last night, yes, you're right. Yes. Okay. Then I can tell you the exact play. Pods threw a head fake, didn't really get CP3 off of his feet, and then drew contact purposefully. And CP3 did this hand motion like this, like he was like falling down. And it reminded me of the thousands of times I've seen that exact hand motion. Of course it was offensive. And I'm screaming at the TV screen, like, you piece of shit. So, flop. I mean, all these things. So yes, I am back to hating him. It is what it is. But to make this a transition. All right. So playoff Jimmy. You've had the pleasure of watching him in person. I've only seen him through a television screen. You say the Warriors need another player. I agree with you. I hope that player is the inclusion of playoff Jimmy. But I don't. We use it. I know I've heard that phrase, and I have images in my head. Him screaming, "This is my shit," But I don't know what it means. So I've got some over-unders here for you. But first, just kind of an idea. What happens? Why is regular season Jimmy and playoff Jimmy different things?
He just sort of moves the sliders around, right? Where I think in the regular season, Jimmy Butler is this efficiency machine. It's more of what he doesn't do than what he does do. That's his value. He doesn't foul. He doesn't turn the ball over. Yep. That's really his value. He doesn't let guys just blow by him. He's still one of the best isolation defenders in the league. In the playoffs, he starts doing things that you could really see, and that's just put his head down and go score the basketball. He clearly, manages himself throughout the regular season to get to the point in the postseason where he's got enough energy to do that. He gets really physical. He starts getting to the basket. He's got a lot of playoff 3-pointers, but that's not even really what it is for me. It's just that when he gets from that 8 to 10 foot range, and he just puts that shoulder in front into your chest, he's unstoppable. He's got this little push shot. I always joked before, obviously, that everything went down in Miami. If he were to ever get a statue outside of the Heat's arena, it would just be him sort of leaning towards the basket, jumping 3 feet off the ground, just pushing a shot towards the basket, because that's his shot, just with Drew Holiday underneath him.
With a face that looks nothing like his. I mean, something that looks like.
Okay.
Who knows? Who knows what it looks like? It's fine.
That's really the difference. Is he just decides that he wants to score the basketball more. That's really it. Yeah.
Maxime, secretly, what are your we have not said it into this microphone, but secretly, when I use the phrase "playoff Jimmy," I'm just like the second coming of fucking Jordan. I have, I think that there's going to be this gigantic leap, in that first game, even if it's a play-in game. Do you have that same kind of sense? Are you thinking the big changes are coming, or is it just those small refinements?
I think anybody that pays attention to basketball at any level bristles when they hear a Jordan comp, right? That's the most uncompable of all uncompables. And I've only ever heard that legitimately from enough people to be like, maybe this is true once. And that's when Jimmy took the 8th seeded Miami Heat all the way to, right? It's oh, he has similar numbers, similar feel to the way Jordan could take over a game on that run. So yeah, like I'm expecting this dude to go into a phone booth and come out with a giant S on his shirt and just like rock people with a cape in a way that we've never seen before since Prime Jordan.
Let's juxtapose it. All right. I got some over-unders. Yeah. These over-unders, all numbers came from the 27 games that Jimmy Butler has played with the Warriors so far. First number, 32.7 minutes per game for Jimmy Butler. Does it go over or under in the playoffs?
Over.
Yeah, over.
Yeah, I say over too. I mean, they're more, hopefully a little bit more rest. They can, we don't have to break that one down because it is an agreement across the board. Next one, probably the biggest, points per game. He's currently averaging with Golden State 16.9. Over or under?
I'm gonna go over because I still believe that there's a Jimmy, like a playoff Jimmy down there. So a couple things. Maxime said he's expecting it right away for this just to like hit the. That tends to be how playoff Jimmy happens. It's usually the first game. There is no warm up. The whole regular season is the warm up. It's game one, play-in tournament, whatever it is. It starts right away. It was even the case last year, and then Kelly Oubre fell on his knee, and then he was out for and then got injured and wasn't available for the playoffs. So, but he was playing great up until that point. So, we're gonna know whether or not Jimmy Butler still has this level pretty much immediately. I think.
Yep.
When the postseason rolls around, my only question is whether or not that guy's still in there. It's been 2 years. We haven't had a classic playoff Jimmy game since game one of the Eastern Conference Finals, the 2023 Eastern Conference Finals.
Right.
He wasn't good in the finals, and then he wasn't available in the 2024 playoffs. And he wasn't really good for the rest of that series, by the way. It was game one, that was it. That was the last time he scored 30-plus points in a playoff game. A lot has happened since then. He's had a couple of major injuries since then. He's obviously on a new team now. So who knows whether that guy's still in there, but the Warriors have to believe he is. That said, I'm taking the over on the point.
Yeah, hold on. Let me ramp up, although you've already said it. That's my bad on having asked the question the way I did. But let's start with the things he has control over in the points and then go the other way, right? So right now, shots per game, because that's the big Bay Area topic. He's just not shooting enough. He's taking 11 shots per game. That one's up to him. We'll see if they fall. Over, under on shots per game.
It's really funny that you guys are already having this conversation.
Oh my God.
It's been a conversation in Miami for 3 years. 11? I'll go over.
Maxime?
Yeah, right. All of this is predicated on the first number that we talked about. If Jimmy's going over in terms of minutes, that means rotations are tightening. That means he's expected to do more. I'm expecting that the number of shots he's taken to go up.
I agree. Here's the next one he doesn't have control over, but what worries me, free throw attempts per game, 7.2. I think those go down. I think that the fouls he is getting right now, which are, I mean, he went to the line 17 times yesterday. I don't think they're going to call that stuff as often in the playoffs. I think he's going to get there, but I think the physicality of the playoffs means some of those things go down. What do you guys think?
How much? What was the number?
7.2 so far.
7.2 is a really tough number. That's actually quite a bit. And he's been getting to the line less over the last couple of years. I'll still go over.
Okay.
But not by a lot.
Yeah. Put them together, gentlemen. All right. So we know your answer, Wes, but pretend like we don't. All right. Shots go up. You think the field or the free throws stay about the same, maybe go up a little bit. 16.9 points per game in the playoffs. Over under. What's the answer?
You know, I'm going over. I'm going way over that. I think he'll average at least 20. Yeah.
Let's go. Kick it up to 20. Maxime, over under.
Ooh, man. I know. I still say over. Again, rotations tighten. We're going to need him to do it, and he's going to step up.
And he knows that that's what's expected of him. He's still in the honeymoon phase. He wants to impress the new parents. You know what I mean? He's going to show up in a suit and tie. He's going to do this.
And he's made references. I should have pulled the quote, but he said something along the lines in the last couple of days leading into San Antonio that one of the reasons why he will be successful as playoff Jimmy is the reads that Podziemski has been able to make during the regular season. That like he's been able to swing the ball fast enough that will let Butler really succeed, but that he's even referencing a switch. You know, that it's not just people like us who are using the phrase playoff Jimmy, but that he at least is acknowledging like there's this idea and, you know, that he'll try to get there. That should be a part of his first impression. All right. It would be crazy, Wes, if I didn't get a food take from you. So this is normally part of your intro. I didn't this time. Wes has an amazing ability to both give us takes that he completely believes in and also tend to trigger you, having to do with food. A couple apologies up front. One, I looked up that fucking ketchup one that you gave us last time. It had not appeared anywhere else. It was an original piece of work, and I continue to be jealous of it. Apology number two, I do have a food take, but it has not been written down. I've got nothing as professional as you may have now, and I'm worried about it. So there's our setup.
Before we get to the food take, can I just ask you one more Warriors question that you brought up earlier? You said that you were before last night's Spurs game expecting maybe I sorry if I'm getting this wrong. You were expecting them to win 2 rounds? Should
win.
Or they should win 2 rounds, and now you're saying that they could win 2 rounds.
Yeah.
And you feel different about this if they have to be in the play-in tournament, or do you feel different about this if they just based on what you've seen lately, and let's say they sneak over Memphis and end up with the 6th seed?
Both.
Okay.
The play-in, I want 0-0-0 part of a 7-8 play-in with Minnesota, and I want even less to do with that if the loser has to play fucking Dallas with AD back and with Klay Thompson and like all the stuff that could possibly mean. Like, no, I have no. And for a team that it's not just the week off, to have like the possibility of a hard ass game and then a crazy ass emotional game just to go play Houston or OKC, no thank you. No thank you. Just as far as logistics, which is what made me so frustrated last night. That's really when I was thinking of shit. I wasn't thinking of Harrison Barnes. I knew that shot was going down the second it left his hands. I was thinking of how badly they screwed themselves, like where you've put yourself now in this scenario. And then as far as just overarching, I'm less belligerently confident. Like I really genuinely believed that this talent was so good, and we just didn't have it all year. And so like, if we did, we'd be in the 3 seed for sure, of course. And then no, you play a team without Wemby or Fox, and get out hustled in the 4th quarter. You're up 12 in the 4th and you still piss it away.
Sorry to bring it up again.
Well,
if only Harrison Barnes made that shot when he was playing for Sacramento in the playoffs, though. Like, that's the first thing I thought of.
I thought as he shot it, I was so confident it was going in. I thought, you know what? Of the 2, I'm glad he missed the Sacramento one.
That's true.
It was like, fuck it, this one can go. Like, it is what it is. And we got to get a Harrison Barnes. Although I would have preferred he hit it in Game 7 in that fucking building.
Can I ask you one more Warriors-related question before we get to the food takes? I'm sorry, we haven't talked about this. This could just be one word. But do you think Draymond Green should be Defensive Player of the Year?
Yes.
No.
Okay. What's your food take?
I had more words on that, but we can follow it. All right, here's my food take. And like I said, I think I might be stealing it from you. I'm a fan of nachos. I will order nachos. I'm okay with nachos, but here's the take. Nachos should only be an appetizer. You should not be allowed to order that as an entree in any scenario. Anytime nachos is bigger than a single layer, it's bullshit. You eat that first top layer, dope. Everything else is just plain as fuck, dry ass chips. And there's I've done the thing where like, I beg them, can you layer it? But you feel like an asshole as you're talking about it. You can't really give the order the way that you do. I'm always disappointed by like bite 8, so appetizer, perfect. Entree, you're making a mistake. Go a different direction. Enchiladas, I don't know, almost anything else.
Follow-up questions.
Let's go.
Does this count if you're just with a friend or on a date or with your wife or something, and all you get are the nachos to share, maybe a cocktail or 2, and then that's it? That's the meal. Is that okay?
I mean, it is okay, but it's okay because in that instance, we're having a shared appetizer for dinner. It'd be like if we got like fried calamari, and we all just kind of picked out of that. Like, sure, no problem.
But it would be very strange if your wife ordered the porterhouse and then you ordered the chicken nachos, and then they came on and they were at the table at the same time. That would be crazy.
I'm telling you, I've done that. I've been the guy who've gone, this is my entree move, and then I'm immediately upset. It's just that I have zero moisture in my mouth anymore because I'm just eating salted chips for 30% of the experience.
The problem is that you look like there's no sexy way to eat nachos, and you look like such a child. If somebody else has an adult meal in front of them and you're eating.
Why use a knife and fork? You don't use a knife and fork on nachos? That's
like with the Snickers.
That's exactly right. I'm very careful. The knife's kind of hard, but I've worked on it for a while.
This is a good take. Also, I have a problem with nachos at the bowling alley.
Say more.
Well, finger foods at the bowling alley in general, it's just tough. I think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah. If you're sticking your fingers into dirty holes, maybe you shouldn't be using those fucking fingers to then eat.
That's right.
Go
Well
ahead
said.
and clip that out. Yeah. I got totally set up there.
All right, boys. I have something prepared.
Fuck.
But I want to start. There's a scene in The Departed where Jack Nicholson's character, Frank Costello, quotes John Lennon as saying, "I'm an artist. Give me a tuba and I'll get something out of it." It's the same scene where Costello tells Leonardo DiCaprio's character that he knows that there's a rat in his organization. Then he makes that rat face. You guys have seen the meme. Anyway, back to the quote. I think about that quote a lot because I don't know if you know this about me, but I consider myself a sandwich artist. The John Lennon of sandwiches, if you will. Maybe I can't make music with a tuba, but give me that, some ham, and a little bit of mayonnaise, and I can turn it into a pretty damn good hoagie. I say all of this not to brag, but to provide needed context for what I'm about to say. I have a bone to pick with Firehouse Subs. Here's what they say about their approach to sub making on their website. Quote, "People come back again and again because unlike other sub places, we steam our meats and cheeses, releasing a rush of flavors, then stuff a serving on one of our toasted private recipe sub rolls. It's a winning combination for losers, maybe." You asked me for a food take. Well, here it is, big boy. Subs should never be toasted. What, the roll is too airy and delicious when it's served soft? You prefer to swap out the fresh smell of baked bread for burnt crust in a dirty oven? I don't want to hear the counters. Oh, the bread is stale. Get new bread, genius. It's only the cheapest food ever. Oh, I like when the meat is hot. That's called a panini, bozo. Toasting your sub is child's play. It's a sub equivalent of putting butter on pasta. Have you ever been in line at a sub shop and the person in front of you asks for it toasted? Don't you lose respect for them, even just a little bit? I bet that person didn't mind when the stock market crashed because all their money is tied up in a Costco membership and RC Cola. This is why I won't set foot in a Firehouse Subs. It's full of people I don't respect, like an Imagine Dragons concert. You want to know where the Firehouse Subs headquarters are? Jacksonville, of course. But I'll tell you what the real problem is here. Adding. People are obsessed with adding. They think by adding, they're getting more value. That's wrong. The very idea that a sub shop would offer to toast your sub for free compels people to do it without ever thinking that they are making the sub worse. Think about it. Would you put razor blades in your toothpaste if Crest offered it for the same price? I don't think so. Don't ruin your subs. And more importantly, don't let Firehouse Subs build a business on bad taste. My challenge to everybody listening, and listen to me very closely. Next time you see a Firehouse Subs, go in. That's right. Go in. And when you get to the front of the line, ask them not to toast your sub. I hear they'll give you fresh bread for free. The person behind you in line might hear you and do the same thing. And the person after that. And the person after that. If enough of us do it, maybe those Jacksonville hillbillies will get the picture. Fresh is better than toasted. Don't toast your subs. I'll leave you with this final quote from Frank Costello. I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me. Thank you.
I mean, I would accuse you of having written that before, but I've already been stunned by that accusation. You know what I should have? This is on me. Before we did that, a couple of new sponsors, Firehouse Subs and Razor Blade Crest Toothpaste, both of which mean a lot to us. And I should have said that. This segment, in fact, is sponsored exactly by them. Am I the big boy and bozo who you were referencing in there? Like when you were talking those specific takes, were those to me? Was it to the Firehouse Sub CEO? Like,
you were big boy. Bozo was more of a general bozo.
I'm going to end it with a shocking thing. I like toasted bread on my sandwiches, you piece of shit. No. It's fantastic. It has a little bit of texture. It makes I can put the condiment on it a little bit better. I'm just telling you, I go the extra mile. I'm Firehouse. I'm your guy. Bring me in. We should be your sponsor for sure.
It's a money play. I don't believe it.
I mean, I'm going to ask Maxine, but judged only on his facial expressions, I think we already know how he feels about toasted bread. Go ahead. Pick a side, Maxine. What do you got?
Such a waste. You're ruining the art of bread making by just like cramming it into a toaster and burning it, right? Like it's taking the chemistry. of this beautiful thing and then just destroying it. But I gotta say, on the other hand, my gum health has never been better after I've been chomping some razor blades around. So, 50-50.
Yeah, it is good. It's like taking meringue and putting that burn on the top. It's already an incredible recipe, and then you add just a little extra flavor for sure. I'm a toasted guy.
I just
don't know why it's the default. I go in a sub shop and I order the thing and they're like, "Would you like it toasted?" And I'm like, "Don't ask me that. Why are you even offering that?"
I love the idea of you going in there, it's nice and crowded. You order, okay, do not toast mine, and then turn back around to the rest of the crowd. Like, let's get this started. It's like, it starts with you, guy. This is your obligation now. Let's like dominoes. I need to see this all the way through.
So, all right, let's say hypothetically, I'm in Firehouse Subs in the line in front of you. I order my sub. I ask for it not to be toasted. Then I do that. I turn around and I say, "I got your sub if you don't get it toasted."
I mean, you probably have my attention. A couple of things. I would be looking at my pager. I wouldn't be sure like really what was going on. And then I would feel internally, I wouldn't want it. I would prefer pay. But externally, I would want your approval so badly, even though we didn't know each other. Like, thank you, sir. Also, I hate toasting. Like, I would definitely join you and then eat it slightly disappointed. And like maybe I'd leave and go complain about it to somebody.
Toasted is the wrong way.
Toasted is always the right way. Also, almost on the dot, 2 minutes late, but I'm landing the plane right within the expected window. Wes, we love you. Always true. Of course, it's true now. For people who need far more Goldberg in their life, where do they go?
Go check out Real GM Radio. We just had Katie Heindel on, who writes the wonderful Basketball Feelings Substack. We did our first annual NBA Feelings Awards, so it's not the usual NBA awards.
Nice.
So it's some feel-good stuff and some other things and a lot of fun. And I also had Nick Engstadt from Locked On Mavericks on the show to take us inside the Luka return, some really interesting stuff from Dallas. And then while you're there, subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Excellent stuff. You know where the hell we are. If you want to see me on an exceptionally blurry camera, you can tune into this YouTube. It'll be great there. You can also find a bunch of incredible content on that channel where we'd like you to like, subscribe, the whole 9 yards. With that in mind, go Warriors. Hopefully, see you real soon.